On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. This is the first time in my life where I have truly experienced a set of circumstances where people have been pitted against each other. And what's more interesting, because there's always kind of been this polarity, if you will, in society, you know, the left and the right, the good and the bad and all that. But what's very interesting right now is there's actually this perceived notion that one side is completely correct and the other side is completely wrong. Never in my life have I ever seen an argument that was completely one-sided. I've never seen a problem that was completely one-sided. I've never seen any circumstance in life that is completely one-sided. But right now, everything is one-sided. I've gotten to join the ranks. I guess I've finally gotten big enough in my own little world to finally get my first warning. And obviously it's something I'm not happy about. And I'm going to be cautious on how I speak and see if I can keep this from happening anymore. And so if I disappear for a week, you guys will know I've somehow made some other mistake that I'm unaware of. And I've got no qualms necessarily about any of these platforms. I get they're doing what they're doing. I think there is a slant to one side. And again, it still blows my mind how there is this perceived notion that only one side is correct and that everybody else on the other side that's asking questions is incorrect. Just absolutely baffles the mind. So we've got, obviously, a lot going on in the world of politics. We have a lot going on in the world in general. We've got a lot going on in the world with business, and certainly in the United States. And I think all of these things are rather telling to the bigger picture, the bigger problem, what we're basically going to be voting on here in the next couple weeks. Today's the 20th, so elections are 2 weeks away, I think, from today. The world is going to change forever, starting after this election. Now, are we going to have election, and could there possibly be a period of time before all the votes are tallied, cast, and everything? Yes, probably. And is there probably going to be some more tumultuous times that follow right after the election? Yes, probably. I mean, there's a lot to suspect that's being the case. There's already threats that have been made from Antifa, at least. And I've got some evidence of that as well that are basically telling people, look, if you vote Trump back in, this is what you can expect. I've got the same problem here where I've got to be really careful what I'm allowed to say. I've also got the situation personally where my mom and my sister and my dad don't talk to me. My dad tries, sort of, but just by forwarding funny emails. That's about as close as we are right now. Used to be called number one son for all of my life until I told him about my channel. And that's all I did. I never forced my views on anyone. I never pushed my opinions on anyone. But they found out that I have an opposing opinion and then thus labeled me all sorts of things. Then my sister found out I was talking about the QAnon and all that stuff, and then she attacked me. So it's very interesting the way the world is right now. We've got a lot of people that attack one side, and if that one side even raises a hand to defend themselves, they are instantly thrown in jail and accused of a crime. It is the most bizarre situation I've ever seen. It is completely one-sided, and you're not even allowed to talk about it. This should alarm people. This should be something that's like, what is going on? And I kind of feel like it should be obvious that if one side literally is telling you, you can't talk about this, even if it's crazy, even if it's made up, even if it's wrong, to say you can't talk about this, New York Post article, for example, when one side says you can't talk about something, that to me is a red flag to that one side. Not to what they're saying you shouldn't be talking about, and then they come up with X, Y, and Z as the reasons. So something's really strange right now. And all I can say is ask questions, at least within your own little circles where you can trust. I don't think you're going to be allowed to have these discussions on Twitter. You're not going to be allowed to have these discussions probably in Facebook or any number of the social media platforms right now. You're not allowed to have these discussions, period. And we're finding it. I mean, keep trying. But I think we're finding that many people are losing channels. Many people are literally being removed from Twitter and Facebook and all these things. Literally, accounts are just being removed. It's going to become an echo chamber on these platforms as there will be no one from the center or right to be able to ask questions of the left. So the left is going to be in there, and then they're not going to be happy because there's not going to be anyone to be angry at. So again, it's going to backfire in the big picture, but we're all going through this experience together. So here we are with Republicans trying to close down the Senate until after the election. This is Schumer. An attempt to keep them from moving Coney Barrett through to have a full Supreme Court before the S hits the fan coming up soon after the election. Probably the way everything else is playing out. I would be surprised if it doesn't. We'll see, of course. But obviously, be aware that that's likely going to happen. Again, make sure you're stocked with supplies, toilet paper, chili, whatever your thing is, man. Make sure you've got your backup plan kind of stored up. Make sure you've got supplies. Because this is what's happening. You know, the second guy, basically, in the Senate, the guy for the Democrats, the head, what do they call it, whatever his title is. This guy is trying to shut down the Senate. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. But it's one example of what's going on. Another example of what's going on. Quite possibly going to be the single highest ratings show in the history of television is going to be this debate on Thursday. They are expecting 70 million people to be watching this debate. That is insane. They're also talking about, one, the debate commission decided to adopt new rules again, and some people are saying that that's what the debate commission's job is. Others are saying that they really should clear it with the candidates and make sure that everybody's on board. But again, the one side that says everybody should be on board is the side that's not allowed to talk or have an opinion. So the side that's allowed to talk and have an opinion, let me share that opinion because that's what's going to be, that's what we're going to get to experience. That opinion is that they're going to cut the mics. There's going to be mute buttons on the mics. They're going to change the questioning so it doesn't have any ability to really cover Hunter Biden and the dealings that are coming up all over the place. They are not supposed to talk about that, which again is the one thing that everyone wants to hear. They asked him about stacking the courts last time, Joe Biden, and he didn't answer that question. Now, again, people are still wondering what's the plan, but ultimately, when they don't answer the question, well, people are going to start to assume, and I think in most cases, they're probably assuming correctly, which is he most likely, if he wins, will stack the courts. It's the only way they'll be able to push through a progressive set of laws that will strip away our rights and not have the Supreme Court say, oh, that's against the Constitution, you can't do that. That's not going to work well for this direction that they're desperately trying to push society right now. Again, only one side's right. Never in my life have I ever seen only one side be right. Never. It is always in the middle. The truth is always in the middle. Always. Maybe closer to one side than the other, sure. It's not square in the middle always, but it is never fully on one side. Except today. Except right now. Except going into the election where people that have opinions that don't necessarily agree with everyone else's opinions are being silenced. You're not allowed to have an opposing opinion, apparently. I don't know when that happened. I don't know when we became a country that wasn't allowed to have discussions and commentary. I don't know when we became a country that felt it had to mute people in order to allow the other side to talk. When you can't have opposing views, where you can't have someone say, hey, yeah, but what, that section that you just said right there, well, let's talk about that. Rather than let you talk for another 5 minutes, let's talk about that issue. Now, I get in a debate, you're supposed to get 2 minutes to do your intro. And yeah, you shouldn't really interrupt during that 2 minutes. I really don't think you should. It's rude. But to mute the mic and take away any option, or to censor, if you will, which is much the same thing in my mind, it's First Amendment, man. I'm all about the First Amendment. I'm a very spiritual person, super spiritual person, and I've communicated and been in radio and all that crap my whole life. I'm very much a part of the First Amendment. And I think the ability to be able to tell the news and talk about the news, how it's happening. Now, granted, they wish that would only be affiliated news sources, part of the controlled narrative. They don't like the fact that random Joe Schmoes like myself are able to read news sites and put together a news program that's, in some cases, better than some of the stuff we see on TV. Now, again, this guy O'Keefe is all over the place, and he's opening up a lot of information around the way that tech companies certainly are working, the way that there is truly, it seems, and there's evidence, and we're getting people that are talking about it, there seems to be evidence that there is help going to one side, and there is sort of an attempt to diffuse or reduce any successful views on the other. Now, again, this just reeks of kind of, you're like putting all in. It's like playing poker. You don't really have a great hand, and you're just hoping to God by going all in that you can intimidate the rest of the table and get them to fold. But you realize that if any one of them stays through to the end, you're kind of screwed. And I kind of feel like that's sort of where we're at. The trust right now is very, very poor. The trust that people have in the current government, so you've got a whole slew of progressives and left-leaning people that definitely don't trust when D&I Ratcliffe comes out and talks about how, and I'm going to cover more of this, but how he comes out and says these emails are definitely not Russian disinformation, that there's absolutely no intelligence that we're aware of yet that would suggest that or indicate that. So when the DNI comes out and says something that opposes the ex-CIA director, the ex-DNI, and even Christopher Wray, the current FBI, who says we're looking into it, but again, talking about ongoing investigations, they don't ever do that, but now all of a sudden, here we're making a rule. Something doesn't seem right there. Again, it's always this weird one-sided approach. Now, is the right completely right in all their beliefs? No, I don't think so either. I really do think the truth is in the center. The center lane is really the better lane for most of us. Extreme right, it's not good, especially the ones that are violence. No violence is ever okay. Extreme left, not okay. Bunch of violence there too, not okay. Most of us are in the center. Most of us lean one way or the other. And in some cases, maybe financially lean one way, but when it comes to the way we have a family and raise our families and whatnot, maybe lean a different way. When it comes to Second Amendment, maybe we lean somewhere else too. So just because we're left or right in a lot of these ideologies doesn't mean we don't necessarily agree on a lot more than we realize. But they don't want that. They don't want agreement. They don't want people to agree with each other. They don't want people talking. I mean, that's one of the other benefits, finger quotes, benefits of COVID right now, is the limited amount of people hanging out. I literally haven't seen my family. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to, frankly, right now, and I don't think they want to see me, but literally have not seen them since, I want to say it was probably January of this year. It's been quite a while anyway. So more about the debate commission. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I obviously, Trump is not someone that is going to be muted easily, and I will say without a doubt, if Joe's mic is open and Joe is within 20 feet of Trump, I'm sure it's going to pick up Trump yelling over the muted microphone. And so we'll see how it plays out. Again, last 2 weeks, right before the election, all assets are deployed. Everything matters right now. So again, as I keep talking about, I have a hard time with the fact that one side seems to be right and the other side's completely wrong. That never works for me. And to me, that's always a red flag. It's a red flag that something's jacked about that one side that's claiming to be the moral superior viewpoint. That's just absurd to me. So in similar veins, Boeing is relocating where it's building its 787. It used to have two facilities. Well, it still does. North Carolina, and they have one in Everett, Washington. I've actually toured the Everett facility before. It is a fascinating facility. It's very cool what goes into building an airplane. It's fantastic. And my grandpa worked for Boeing, so I will be honest. Boeing's a company that's a bit near and dear to me, and I think they're a company that was having a lot of troubles because of that 737 MAX fiasco, but it seems like they're trying to get back on track. But again, they're going to leave their 787 Dreamliner jet. They're going to try to leave the Everett, Washington location. They're expecting to be able to do it by sometime around mid-2021. Essentially, it requires them to be able to fulfill, I think it was 6 aircraft a month, if I'm remembering correctly. And when they can get to that point out of that one facility in North Carolina, they will completely close down the facility in Washington. Now, the question you might ask is, why are they moving it from Washington? Reason is because Washington's been deemed a very anti-business environment. And Boeing is actually looking at the longevity of its company, and it's looking at the profitability of its company, and it realized that by staying in Washington state, that might adversely affect Boeing's abilities to be profitable. I think if you read between the lines, there's a lot more being said, but that's essentially what the lines say. So Boeing is even looking at the facts and going elsewhere. Now, again, if you were to have this debate with anybody, only one side would be correct. Only one side's allowed. So, again, it's not cool. Now, this video here is Trump telling a journalist Biden is a criminal and you're a criminal for not reporting it. I'm going to play it just because I feel like if they can't necessarily get mad at me. It's his words. And I'm sharing them, but this is something that's been on the news. It's all over the place. So let's at least check out this 29 seconds of Trump being a little upset, apparently.
What campaign strategy seems to be to call Biden a criminal. Why is that?
He is a criminal. He's a criminal. He got caught. Read his laptop. And you know who's a criminal? You're a criminal for not reporting it. You are a criminal for not reporting it. Let me tell you something. Joe Biden is a criminal, and he's been a criminal for a long time. And you're a criminal in the media for not reporting it. Good luck, everybody. Have a good time. Have a good time.
I love how he, not only just said it once, but follows up with an identical one more time while he was at it. It's like, atta go, way to go there, bud. But yeah, I mean, I can't say I disagree, and that is one of the biggest questions that's going on right now. Is this censorship that's happening from Twitter, certainly, the New York Post story, which we can get into as well. And then for those of you that maybe have been living under a rock, there was a New York Post story that released information about Hunter Biden's laptop that was supposedly given by Hunter Biden to a computer repair shop. He never came back to pick it up. The records of the laptop and the hard drive, they've been copied, and the laptop was handed to the FBI months ago, from what I understand. And Rudy Giuliani, back in, I think they said August, got a hold of the hard drive. And so this hard drive has all these emails on it. Fox News has actually corroborated one of the people on the emails. And in that particular email, they were talking about the way they were going to divvy up some of the money. They showed H getting 20% and some other names, and then Jim at the bottom, and then H holding 10% for the big guy. And that's been the big question. H, people are suspecting, is Hunter. Makes sense. It was his laptop, his deal, possibly, right? From what we understand, that's what's going on. And the big guy, of course, everyone's assuming, since H was holding it, the big guy's probably his dad. We don't know for sure. And that's one of the big questions that people would want to be able to ask Biden. And since that story's come out, mind you, Biden has, quote, put a lid on his whole campaign. So he's, quote unquote, not available until Thursday. Again, 2 weeks before an election, he's eating up 4 of those days with a lid, 4 out of 14. I don't want to do the math right now. It hurt my head. But that's a big percentage of that 14 days is 4. That's a big percentage that he's just, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try. So, of course, that begs the question, too. Why? Because you're afraid that someone in the media might actually ask a question? Now, depending on how they ask it, well, again, you got people like Twitter that will likely block it. Come to find, they've blocked all sorts of people. In fact, they're blocking the White House COVID expert because he was sharing some very interesting information done on a very credible study that was done on a very credible scientific source. Again, I've covered it in other videos, but all he was doing was sharing information. That's a study done by an expert in the field. And he was blocked. Why? Because it goes against the narrative. Because it doesn't speak of fear. Because it doesn't speak of locking you down further. And I guess that's a problem. They say you should listen to the experts, but they choose which experts we should be able to listen to. And on top of that, they say, well, you should listen to the CDC. And then the CDC comes out with stuff that says opposite. Well, no, you should listen to the World Health Organization instead. Well, then we listen to the World Health Organization come out and say lockdowns are bad. We shouldn't do that. Well, you shouldn't really listen to any of them. You should listen to this guy over here, Joe. Joe's really smart. Well, okay. What about this guy here, this COVID expert? No. Don't listen to him. Again, weird to me. We'll see if maybe cover that story. Yeah, this is the one other thing that it just trips me out. So, I mean, I honestly think Trump's going to win. I do. I think from everything I can tell, I think people are really, truly waking up to the problems that exist. And one of the things that we keep hearing And now we're seeing notes that are being left on people's homes out in Kansas City, Missouri, is we're hearing that the left is going to be very mad if Trump wins. And so they feel that maybe more riots might be coming. Now, this is the thing that's funny, and I think it makes me think of my family. My family is like, well, we're not close to you right now because you believe this stuff. And we've got a group of people out there that said, well, since you believe in this guy and believe in this stuff, if you vote him back in, we will rain terror, apparently, down upon your neighborhoods. And I think it's one of those things, it's like bullying or it's intimidation. It's meant to go, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop believing this stuff. Mom, Dad, will you talk to me again, please? Or in this case, oh my God, I better not vote Trump in. I don't want people to come and burn down my city. But that's not really what we're voting for. We're voting for someone that hopefully is going to take us out of the swamp and get all this gooky stuff off of us and allow us a chance to build a country that we were always supposed to be, that our framers envisioned. And hopefully build a world that's based on freedom and really start to work into, in my opinion, it's like a Star Trek world or something, right? Like we should start building like giant ships out in space and create all these jobs and, send and explore. And I mean, we should do it. I don't know why. It'd get us all together, right? Instead of using all this technology to kill each other, we could use all this technology to build something really cool and go places. And certain countries could be really good at certain parts of it, right? I mean, it would just be an awesome way for us to unite. Now, again, that's just one idea, but at least I'm bringing ideas to the table. But the other side says, no, we want to completely control anything that we make. We want to control any gas creation or gas usage. We want to make everything electric, though we don't really have any way to do that really efficiently. So if you have blackouts and brownouts, oh well, then your car's not going to work and you can't get home. Just a lot of strangeness around this. We're going to force you into a certain behavior versus, you can pretty much do as you wish. And this intimidation to try to scare us into making decisions, well, I don't think is a good idea, first. And second, I don't think it's kind. I don't, it's not the right way to go about trying to, quote, win an argument. And just to share this one little part, the way these letters read apparently is, you have been identified by our group as being a Trump supporter because they have Trump things in their yard most of the time. Your address has been added to our database as a target for when we attack should Trump not concede the election. We recommend that you check your home insurance policy and make sure, I guess, that it is current and that it is adequate coverage for fire damage. You have been given fair warning is the way this letter closes out. Here's a picture of it on this Matt Schlapp. And a lot of people actually chime in on this. And again, it's just funny how people can push violence against these people that support Trump. Trump encourages this violence. This is people that say, Trump has denounced violence like 20 times. Trump has denounced all the violent groups. No one on the left has denounced any of these groups. Any of the Antifa or any of that. But only people on the right are guilty of being violent, apparently. And they cite, Michigan or whatever, that one incident. And I get you. We got here, let's get rid of the hate spewed from all the White House. He hates on women all the time, hates on men, like blah, blah, blah. So again, everything's about Trump is horrible. Trump is hateful. And he's not. If you listen to most of the stuff he says, he's very uniting. It's people that are spewing out our untruths. And a lot of the times when they release the untruth and they get their thousands and thousands of views and then silently hide the tweet, delete the tweet, whatever, it's already done the damage it's supposed to, and they don't really care. So again, here we are voting for decency over division. We're voting for Joe Biden. Now, again, they can say anything they want about Trump and about anybody on the Trump side. They can say anything they want. But if I even raise my voice talking about people on the left, if I give them a derogatory nickname, I'm the bad person. Right? Nobody on the right's allowed to be frustrated with what's going on right now. And nobody on the left seems to give a crud of what's happening. And what's sad is although it may not be happening to you right now, it will. Who's to say you're not next? It's like taxes. Oh, we're just going to tax the rich. Well, now we're going to tax the middle class. Well, now we're going to tax the poor. And that's how taxes work. But a lot of times, people are like, yeah, tax them. Well, that's going to bite you in the bum, most likely. That's not a positive thing. And again, although these are sort of out of order, this was the post on Breitbart about how Clapper and Brennan, these Hunter Biden emails are Russian disinformation, whether genuine or not. Huh? So even if this is Hunter Biden's computer, his laptop, even if he got water damage on it somehow, even if he took it to a repair shop to fix it, even if he had all sorts of emails on there from Chinese people, from people in Russia, of course, people in Ukraine, Uzbekistan apparently, even if these are emails that are to Hunter and are, quote, genuine, they could be, if they happen to be genuine, you're saying that's still Russian disinformation. If it's a legitimate, real email on a person's laptop that belongs to them, that's somehow Russian disinformation? Or is it considered Russian disinformation because people are actually talking about it and ideally they wouldn't? That is the question, again, you need to ask yourselves. They're calling this Russian disinformation regardless if it's true or not. Regardless if these emails came to his computer or not. At first, they were trying to call it a hack. A hack is when you forcefully take information from a device, be it remotely or getting past its password or its biometric somehow or whatever. That's hacking. If you open up the computer because someone gave you the password and says, hey, yeah, can you fix this thing? And you're in there and suddenly this computer becomes yours. It's not hacking at all. It's your laptop. You can do what you want with it. That's not hacking. That's not hacking. That's owning a laptop and anything that's on it. That's where we are right now. You guys should be seeing red flags everywhere. I don't know how many of us are going to make it through all this rigmarole over the next couple weeks. I'm certainly going to do my best. I enjoy doing videos every day. I figure even the stuff that's happening on the other boards, I'll still find ways to talk about it without directly sourcing it, but we'll get the gist of what's being said. Again, it's news. And usually they offer articles first, so in those cases, we'll definitely. 2, talking points are always fun to have. Those are easy to incorporate, right? And then 3, I'm pulling other news sources that oftentimes tend to agree anyways. There's been a bunch of times where I've been talking news, and then the following day shows up on the board one of the stories I was just talking about. So again, nothing out of the blue, out of the ordinary here, but I just want to remind people that it seems very strange how one-sided this argument seems to be. And just ask yourself, have you ever once in your life literally seen an argument happen that was completely one-sided? Now, I maybe leave arguments out that you were a part of because oftentimes a lot of us don't like to be real fair when it comes to, we're always right? How often do we like to admit we were wrong? But if you can be honest about how many arguments you've been in, a lot of the times you're like, I probably shouldn't have said what I said. Yeah, I probably could have done better. Yeah, I probably could have texted her and let her know I was going to be late. And whatever. Yeah, I could have put the toothpaste cap back on, I guess. There's always something we could have done that might have made it a little better. It's never completely one-sided, except until 2020. It's a very interesting year, and a year that's going to live in infamy for sure, but will actually live in fame, I think, in a good way, and we will remember this year forever. This will be the great 2020. This will be the year that everything changed. And although censorship exists now and will continue to for periods of time, lawsuits have been filed by the GOP, antitrust lawsuits are being filed, and a whole bunch of other things are starting to happen. And without a doubt, there is so much information that is incriminating for Twitter. Twitter's just getting busted left, right, and center. They're going to lose their 230 status, I am sure. And odds are a new site is going to pop up that might be more conservative in nature, that'll be like Twitter, and a bunch of conservative people will go to it. It will blossom and blow up. Then a bunch of the liberal people from Twitter will leave Twitter and join the other place because they still want to be angry. And if there's no conservatives on Twitter, it's going to be boring for people on the left. Twitter's basically toast and is probably not going to survive this. And I don't know, part of me thinks that's kind of how this plays out. And I think a lot of these platforms are going to have copycats come in and create similar platforms. This technology is getting easier and better every day. It's going to happen. So again, stay strong, stay together. Realize that a lot of things are changing right now, and realize that, yeah, sometimes things might happen that might cause some of these channels to disappear. I do have another channel. It's called Dan RadioStyle, but frankly, I will never talk politics on that channel, ever. It's a spiritual channel. It's about manifesting and all that kind of junk. More crazy stuff, basically, but not a place for politics, period. That's why I made this channel. It's a place where I felt I could freely talk about politics. And so we'll see. We'll see how things play out. I certainly want to keep this channel. I'm hoping I can stay within the rules, and I will do my best to do that. I will still try to talk about things, but I'll just be careful not to say things that could be construed as bullying or being mean to others. That I think is what I've gotten in trouble for. That's what it looked like. I'm not quite sure what I said. I doubt that's all that accurate, but I might have said I remember I've made fun of one person's eyebrows a few times. So again, who knows? Maybe that was it. Maybe that's what got me in trouble. We'll see. So I'll be kinder. I'm working on it. I'm an evolving human being, just like the rest of you, and hopefully becoming a better one at that. We'll see how these games continue to play out. Please continue to support me, myself, and everybody else that's out there. If you can, that's awesome. We just really appreciate it. Remember, where we go one, we go all. It's On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.